doing business in Africa. You can't afford to be without Africa Investor.
Let's bring in some reaction with Chairman and CEO of Africa Investor, Dr. Hubert Danso, who joins us. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, as we listen to what the President has had to say and his remarks, we also take stock of how this move is a first for the African continent. Let's talk a little bit about the significance of such a presidency.
Well, I think, thank you very much for this opportunity to share the African private sector's views. We're very excited by South Africa's not only its presidency, but the impactful contribution that it's had throughout its membership of the G20. But of course, I think what really gets us focused is the way that South Africa has really decided to use this presidency to elevate Africa's economic and industrial priorities on the global agenda, very much aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. So we think it's absolutely on time, it's absolutely on point in terms of the agenda and the focus. And we have high expectations to be an integral part of a number of those meetings that will be taking place right across South Africa. We love the theme. I mean, how can you not align with the goals of what we stand for in the long-term investment community, representing over $300 trillion of institutional assets globally? We love the theme solidarity, we love the theme equality, and we love the theme sustainability. So we really think that there's a genuine opportunity for the public and the private sector to collaborate on driving a more inclusive, fair and resilient global economy through South Africa's bold and stellar presidency. And then, of course, being part of the Troika, which then hands over to the US, which we just heard from President Cyril Ramaphosa.
As you speak about the impact on the economy, we know that President Ramaphosa will bolster the potential of his G20 presidency with a 19-member team of top economic advisors. What does such a team and the composition of such indicate about Ramaphosa's stance on growth and the overall employment agenda?
Well, I think it's a very refreshing move, as I mentioned, particularly for us in the investment community. I have to say, we've become pretty disenchanted over the past decades of the way that some of our leaders have really tried to drive us into this developmental place, this place where we're only seen as a development project, almost like we go with our begging bowls, when in fact we are probably one of the richest continents on this planet. The new currency of natural capital, we have $4 trillion worth of natural capital. The key critical minerals that we have the majority of in the world, that's going to drive this $10 trillion and growing global green industrial economy, doesn't even take account of the fact that less than 50% of Africa has been geologically tested. So, I really do, again, applaud President Ramaphosa's vision. This is what we need to do. We need to drive institutional investor-public partnerships to actually address these $3 to $5 trillion worth of Africa's nationally determined contribution-related investments. And to date, we've really been relying, and we were all very disappointed with the Baku process, what just happened in COP at 29, where we received a very suboptimal amount. And it became very clear that we need economic and development leadership to be able to drive an industrialization agenda, which has already been endorsed by each and every African head of state through the African Union's Nairobi Declaration. Our path is very clear. We have the opportunity to become a much more significant and competitive player in the $10 trillion per annum and growing global green industrial economy. And that has to happen through long-term institutional investor-public partnerships with the 300 trillion pool of African and global pension fund and sovereign wealth fund capital. But to date, we've really been very focused on how can we get more from the multilateral development banking system, which as a collective balance sheet is only about 1.5 trillion. So there's absolutely no way that we can achieve our developmental goals, our just transition goals, our investment potential, enfranchise our youth, create those green jobs. The only way to accomplish it is exactly the way that the South African presidency have positioned, their presidency for the G20 to drive. It's economic development. And that 19-person team, I'm fortunate enough to know many of the representatives on that. They share this perspective. They have very concrete and implementable projects and ideas and initiatives. So I really think this could be a very transformative presidency, particularly supported by that 19-person team.
As you speak about the team, the impact of this team, of course, will depend on whether its advice is, for one, taken seriously and even implemented. That in itself, of course, will be the make or break as we take a look at some of the robust conversations that will take place and how far they will get to really make a big difference.
Yes, look, I think that's a fair observation.
Yeah.
But the reality is this is a make or break year for industrialization, for Africa, for the G20 presidency, which builds, as you know, on the back of a number of global South presidencies from Indonesia, India, Brazil, and now South Africa. So we have some very deep roots. We have some very deep roots in terms of this agenda. And it's on the agenda because of all of those previous G20s. Now, more importantly, or equally importantly, we now are under the COP finance presidency. So all efforts this year, not only at the G20 level, but also at the BRICS level, and also, at this particular level, is really at the COP level, is really going to be about how do we form smart institutional investor-public partnerships? How do we negotiate, a just and energy and transformation and transition around the GDP that we have with long-term pools of capital, the institutional investment community?
Doing business in Africa. You can't afford to be without Africa Investor.